Have you ever thought about the phrases that we use in the English language to underline the importance of what is being said? For example, let me be honest, or I promise this is true. It's not that the person was lying to you before, but they have used a saying to underline the importance of what is now being said. Paul in the New Testament uses this a few times in letters to his friends. His phrase happens to be, "Here is a trustworthy saying." What Paul had said previously wasn't untrustworthy. He just uses this phrase to add extra emphasis. He doesn't want the readers to miss this really important part. We find the first three occurrences in letters to his close friend Timothy. Here is a trustworthy saying that deserves full acceptance. Christ Jesus came into the world to save sinners, of whom I am the worst. You can see why Paul would want to underline this. Jesus came to save people, even people like Paul who had tried to destroy the early church. Paul wants to underline this to his friend Timothy, that Jesus came not just to save good people, but to save all people, even people like Paul. He is stressing the vastness of God's grace to a fallen world. No one is excluded. The gift of life is open to everyone to accept or reject. Later in the same letter to Timothy, Paul says this: "For physical training is of some value, but godliness is value for all things, holding promise for both the present life and the life to come." This is a trustworthy saying that deserves full acceptance. Here Paul is explaining that living with God as your friend has a double blessing. There is a blessing in this life right now, today. As followers of Jesus, we can rely on his support and promises right this minute. There is also an eternal perspective to be grasped. We don't just get to rely on these promises for today, we can rely on them in this life and the next. A double blessing. In a second letter to Timothy, Paul writes, "Here is a trustworthy saying. If we died with him, we will also live with him. If we endure, we will also reign with him. If we disown him, he will also disown us. If we are faithless, he remains faithful, for he cannot disown himself." Another great statement to underline. Jesus remains faithful to his friends. For all of our mistakes and failings, Jesus is constant in his faithfulness to us all. There is a security in uncertain times knowing this about Jesus. To another friend called Titus, Paul wrote this: "This is a trustworthy saying, and I want to stress these things, so that those who have trusted in God may be careful to devote themselves to doing what is good. These things are excellent and profitable for everyone." So lastly, after all of the previous trustworthy statements, we find our purpose. Followers of Jesus must devote themselves to doing good things. With a renewed heavenly perspective, we can align ourselves with what our Father in heaven would want us to do. Instead of devoting ourselves to ourselves, we can become the agents of change for God in this world. Know that you are doubly blessed.